Let's take a look at the Portland City Council meeting, May 13th, where they discuss Kanal Pirtle-Guiney 1 and furtherance of their depopulation agenda.
Robert Taylor, City Attorney. For the record, I was not hiding. I was picking up my papers, but
We're hiding anything in the city of Portland. We never do.
We never do that. We never do that. Thank you for the question. I think, by and large, I agree with Councilor Novick. The decision, and this council as a local government, we are in a very difficult situation right now because we have a state law that, on the face of the state law, has requirements for masking and identification requirements for federal, state, and local law enforcement. We are trying to comply with that state law. I believe this ordinance complies with that state law. There has also recently been this Ninth Circuit decision. That Ninth Circuit decision, it is a published panel decision of the Ninth Circuit. It's on a preliminary injunction. The rule of law in the Ninth Circuit is that a published panel decision on an injunction is binding on other panels of the Ninth Circuit and lower courts in the Ninth Circuit. So that decision is binding on us. And that decision said states and cities cannot directly regulate masking for federal law enforcement or identification requirements for federal law enforcement. So the law today is it is unconstitutional for state or local governments to try to directly regulate. So the law today is it is unconstitutional for state or local governments to try to directly regulate.
There it
Our
is.
Our state law tells us to do that.
Excuse me, Mr. City Attorney. Allow me to help simplify things for you. According to the Supreme Court of the United States, Norton v. Shelby County, 1886, U.S. Reports, Volume 118, page 425. An unconstitutional act is not law. It confers no rights. It imposes no duties. It affords no protection. It creates no office. It is in legal contemplation as inoperative as though it had never been passed.
And so I think that is the position we are in today, is trying to thread that needle, comply with the state law.
According to the Supreme Court of the United States, Marbury v. Madison, 1803, U.S. Reports, Volume 5, page 137, that in declaring what shall be the supreme law of the land, the Constitution itself is first mentioned.
Do the regulations, the ordinance or the code would allow us to file a suit to try to enforce this against the federal government, and we can make our legal arguments in that litigation. And there's, as Councilor Novick gave you the odds on the success of that.
I have to say that I think it is likely that we will fail, because the Ninth Circuit panel that ruled on the California identification requirement a few weeks ago said basically that the state cannot override the federal government's power to determine whether, how, and when to publicly identify its officers. Now, that was a preliminary ruling in the context of a preliminary investigation, a preliminary injunction, so technically it's preliminary, but the language is decisive. And that panel is never going to say that the law we're proposing here is legal.
And I think he's probably right about that.
I appreciate his honesty on that and in telling folks, but you just said something that is a I don't cross that line. If you're saying that this is unconstitutional, that decision is binding, and that what we're doing here is not legal, really, what you're saying to us, we would be in violation. And so why are we doing this? And how were the makers of these amendments able to bring them forward if they are unconstitutional, because they have to go through legal counsel? I don't get what's going on here.
I appreciate that, and we have advised on the risks of this, and we have advised on the difficult situation the city is in with trying to comply both with state law and now this recent Ninth Circuit decision. That is, we are in complex legal times that are changing rapidly, and yes, we are now kind of in the difficult situation posed by that.
And I am not happy. I am not. I'm troubled by colleagues who are trying to force me to do something that's unconstitutional, and they know it. And the makers are saying that this is a 1 in a million chance of it holding up. So for me, I think as legal counsel for all of us, but I think we are tiptoeing around here. We have something here in Oregon that a lot of folks don't have. That's good. Let's see what it looks like. Let's see how we can help, because I don't want people to get a false sense that Portland police can go around taking off masks of folks. They're not going to listen to us, and they know they don't have to listen to us. This is performative at this point.
Just a quick point of order. The quote was that the makers are saying that this is unconstitutional. That is not accurate at all.
Not the makers. Well, the
That's
makers are saying that it.
That's the exact
Well,
quote.
I didn't.
Just wanted to note that. Thanks.
The makers are saying that it is a 1 in a million chance that this is going to stick.
No, they're not.
Okay.
Councilor Novick says that.
I mean, that's why I was talking about Councilor Novick. So you have to decide on the underlying what you do, but I think you need to set a line in the sand. City Attorney Taylor.
Avalos.
Thank you, colleagues. I know we're running late, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to add my voice in support of this ordinance. As the daughter of immigrants representing one of the most diverse districts in Portland, I take this issue very seriously. For many immigrant families, when someone is taken by law enforcement, families are often left with no information, no clarity, and no understanding of where their loved one was taken or even who took them in the first place. That fear is very real in our communities, especially in East Portland. At its core, this ordinance is about something very basic. If someone is exercising the power to stop, detain, or arrest you, people have a right to know who you are. Simple. And importantly,
Pay attention to this part, because this is what really matters to them.
the documentation provisions here are new, and they matter because they create a record and a level of accountability that communities, organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, PIRC, and immigrant advocates have been asking for. So this ordinance stays within the authority that we have as a city, and what we can do to protect Portlanders, we should absolutely do. I plan on supporting it. Thank you.
You see, they want to create a record of ICE operations and movement so they can hand it over to their activist buddies who will use that information to retaliate against ICE officers.
Thank you very much, Councilor Avalos. Councilor Murillo.
I want to say something similar to what Councilor Avalos just said, and I think this is an important discussion to have. But to me, the most important part of this ordinance is that we can use the surveillance state, and we can use our police who are going to be tracking and monitoring where ICE is operating, their patterns of going into neighborhoods, what times they do it, how they are investigating, who they are taking into account, because all of that is tracked and then becomes a report that goes back to City Council, which is presented on, which is a public record.
As you can see, this was never about keeping the community safe by knowing who's policing us. This was about using the police as a surveillance state to gather information on ICE that will be made publicly available for all their activist NGOs to use to impede ICE operations.
There are community members that are organizing in the community, frankly, beyond the bounds of legality, that because they are not bound by that, but we are. There are community members that are organizing in the community, frankly, beyond the bounds of legality, that because they are not bound by that, but we are.
Beyond the bounds of legality. Beyond the something that limits or restrains of the quality or state of being legal. She is literally telling us there are people in the community organizing unlawful anti-ICE activity, and they need this information. Take Oregon for All, for example. Oregon for All is led by
Organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union, PIRC.
There are community members that are organizing in the community, frankly, beyond the bounds of legality, that because they are not bound by that, but we are. And that is the historic moment that we are in right now. I understand that, look, I'm a Constitution team scholar, national winner, okay? I understand the Constitution, I care about it, and I uphold it. And if we always followed if our courage only was held within the bounds of the law, then we would literally not have civil rights. We are supposed to push on this. And this is a matter that is going to be litigated in federal court at some point or another. This is going to end up being a court case at some point, at one point or another. And the data tracking that we are doing is absolutely critical to make sure that the community has as much information as possible to deal with what's happening. There are limits to the bureaucracy, but within the limits of that bureaucracy, we can use our state power to give people information to act.
And there you have it. She just said her intentions are to give
Community members that are organizing in the community, frankly, beyond the bounds of legality.
the information they need to take action against ICE?
Again, colleagues, I am literally beseeching you right now that if we were only to ever do what was in the bounds of the law or what was already legal based on prior precedent, then we would never move forward as a society. We have a duty to push on this. So I really appreciate the amendments that were made. I will be the first to clarify in whatever video I make after this to the community what this accomplishes and doesn't accomplish. But this does do something, and we have to use the tools that we have. So I will strongly be supporting the underlying ordinance. I think this should go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and we need to fight it out. This is something that we have to try. We don't have a lot of tools as a local government, but the tools that we do have, we have to try. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Murillo. Councilor Pirtle-Guiney.
Thank you, Council President. Is Robert Taylor still up there by chance?
He is.
Mr. Taylor, is there anything unconstitutional about the verification portions of this measure?
That's a great question. I should also note that if a court holds that the regulations in this code directed at federal law enforcement are unconstitutional, then there's a severability provision. They would be severed. Those would not go into effect, but the remainder of it would go into effect. So I think that's an important point. To get to your question, Councilor Pirtle-Guiney, I view the code as currently written as the existing process would be. And I do think it's important to note, and for the record, and if we ever end up getting in litigation, what that verification is getting at now is a very important government interest. And it's twofold. The first government interest is it is illegal to impersonate a police officer, a local police officer, or a federal police officer. So we have a government interest in trying to enforce those criminal laws.
Entering the United States of America illegally is also a criminal offense. You have no interest in enforcing those criminal laws?
Secondly, this word has been talked about before, but this concept of deconfliction, where we have our local officers, we do not want them to come in conflict with other law enforcement who are engaged in legitimate law enforcement activities. And so both to enforce the laws against impersonation and to ensure deconfliction, this code now provides for if a PPB officer shows up and there is indicia of authority, then no action is required. You can do a preliminary investigation if that's not clear. Preliminary investigation is calling dispatch, for example. And you can only move to actually detain a federal law enforcement or do anything like that if you have reasonable suspicion that a crime is being committed. And that's the constitutional standard anyway. And I think all of those steps that I have outlined are things we would do now if we thought that person looks like they're impersonating a police officer and doing something illegal.
So if the Portland police are already doing this, then what is the point in passing this ordinance?
We would try to verify their authority. We would call dispatch. We would investigate until we thought there was a crime. So on the verification part of this, how it is crafted now, today, I would be comfortable defending that portion of it.
So I think the point that I want to make, and I hear you that some of this is what we would do now, and I think in many cases it is what happens now, and we want to make sure we capture the exceptions to that. The point that I want to make sure that we can make is that this will be challenged. There are pieces of this that may be deemed unconstitutional.
Just a quick point of order. The quote was that the makers are saying that this is unconstitutional. That is not accurate at all.
Pieces of this that may be deemed unconstitutional. Councilor Novick thinks it's a 1 in a million chance that it won't be, I think was what you said. But even if the way that 2330.030 C1 and 2 are applied to federal agents or other law enforcement agents of agencies that are of a higher authority than our fine city, with that severability clause, other things that we're doing would be able to move forward. And I just think that's a really important point to note.
Hold on. You're not trying to use this as a distraction just to keep the focus away from the data you're trying to collect on ICE to give to your NGOs, are you? Like the program that Comrade Avalos had mentioned, PIRC, Portland Immigrant Rights Coalition, which has a monthly update on the number of detentions, where the detentions occurred, and what time of day the detentions occurred?
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pirtle-Guiney. Can we please move to a roll call vote on Kanal Pirtle-Guiney 1?
Kanal,
Aye.
Pirtle-Guiney,
Aye.
Ryan,
No.
Koyamaline,
Aye.
Murillo,
Aye.
Novick,
Aye.
Clark.
I believe we should adopt the state law, watch its implementation, and come back and change it at a later date. I'm a no.
Green,
Aye.
Zimmerman,
No.
Avalos,
Aye.
Smith,
Ask the question again.
It's on this. As amended by number 2.
No.
that's a nay to Kanal Pirtle-Guiney 1 from Smith.
I believe that
It's a no.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Dunphy.
Aye.
And the amendment is approved as amended with 8 aye and 4 nay votes.